Here in DC, we love a good debate, and there's an incredibly spicy one playing right now at Arena Stage. The Motion, the bold new play from Obie Award-winning playwright Christopher Chen, where a debate between four scholars quickly transitions into a real-life experiment, where the scientists become the subjects. Things like basic human rights come into question. Who deserves love? Who deserves to live? And most importantly, who gets to decide what it means to be human? It's playing now through June 14th at Arena Stage, DC's Tony Award-winning theater down at the Wharf. If you like theater that actually makes you think, grab your tickets at arenastage.org.
Hey, before we get into today's episode, a quick warning. We are going to talk about sexually explicit text messages. Listener discretion is advised. Today on CityCast DC, we're talking about a DC police scandal, not the one you think. We're talking about the latest twists in Donald Trump's various schemes for our national mall. And we're going to talk about a new DC reality show. Plus, in a members-only fourth segment, the Trump administration's odd campaign against a crucial source for DMV charities. I'm here with my colleagues, Emma Uber and Bridget Todd. Today is Wednesday, May 13th. I'm Michael Schaefer. Here's what DC's talking about. Hey, Bridget.
Hey, Michael.
Hello, Emma.
Hello.
Before we hop in, can we talk about one cute thing? The Nationals, your Washington Nationals, your home baseball team, has a new service dog in training. His name is Natty. He's a golden retriever. His first appearance will be Friday's game against the Orioles. What do we make of the pup and the name?
I'm all for more puppies at sporting events. I'm not super enthralled by baseball, but I like to go catch a Nationals game every once in a while, see the president's race. And so I'm sure Natty is going to be one of the main attractions for me this season if I catch a game.
Very cute name, Natty. Whoever was on that, I think they were really on it. I will give a little bit of pushback. Golden Retriever, I don't know, little right down the middle in terms of dog breeds, but they're crowd pleasers.
They're not doing much for baseball's reputation for not having the most diverse fan base.
I associate Golden Retrievers with white, like upper middle class white families. I don't know why.
Right. Even our dogs are white.
Golden, Mike.
That's funny. I also think, maybe this is just the Indiana University grad in me, but when I hear Natty, I will say my first instinct is Natty Light, the beer. So.
Same. I didn't even grow up in Indiana, and it's the same.
And it's particularly since they're breaking out this dog at the game against the Orioles from Baltimore, home of Natty Bo.
Oh, that's true. That seems like an oversight.
But if it was DC, they'd have to call it like Hoyrig or something. I don't know. It's just that's a little bit too. They could call it Mumbo.
They could.
Or Go-Go.
Go-Go's
just
cute.
Saying. Speaking of the opposite of cute, Emma, who is a fantastic reporter, got her hands, maybe it was a little bit too fantastic this week, because she got her hands on the contents of what's probably the grossest story in CityCast history. Well, it sort of involves the police fake statistics scandal, but it involves like an offshoot of that involves the former number 2 in the department and the texts on his department-issued phone.
Yeah, right. So this is kind of concerning information that was uncovered in the process of investigating the crime stats manipulation. So basically, Andre Wright, longtime, 30-year DC police leader, and he was especially elevated under former police chief Pamela Smith, to the point that in 2024, she created a new office to put him in charge of. That meant that he was basically her de facto second or third in command, very high up in the police department, and oversaw all patrol services. And then once Jeffrey Carroll got elevated to interim chief, Andre Wright was widely considered his second in command. But Andre Wright's name has also kind of surfaced in a number of controversies over the years inside the police department, a number of lawsuits alleging employment discrimination, retaliatory behavior for like taking leave as a gay man, inappropriate sexual relationships, just kind of all this stuff. So they looked at some of his text messages with his wife, who also works at DC Police and actually works in HR. And they uncovered some really, really gross, graphic stuff, both like kind of just sexual content towards his wife, which is one thing, but other sexual and derogatory language about other members of the police department and even victims of crime in some cases.
Don't keep us in the dark, Emma. Come on.
Yeah, I can be a little more graphic there. I mean, one thing that really struck me was the way that he would speak to his wife about other women. Oftentimes it would seem like they would be watching a meeting together, and he would text her something like, this is a quote, "This big titty bitch can't read." And that presumably is about another public safety leader, law enforcement official in our district, and likely someone that's subordinate to him because he has such a high ranking position. In other cases, he texted his wife about a man who was shot in the leg in March of 2025. And he said, "Make sure this motherfucker isn't lying." That's a shocking way to hear someone in charge of where police officers are deployed in the city, who gets patrol services, etc., speaking of someone who's a victim of violent crime.
Emma, for someone listening who was thinking, why do I care what this guy was texting his wife? So what? It's salacious. People are jerks everywhere. People speak like this everywhere. Why should DC residents really be paying attention to these texts?
Right. That's a great question. I think that DC residents should be paying attention to these texts because this isn't just some random guy sending his wife some suggestive texts on his work phone. You know, not ideal, but not a crime against public safety. This was someone who has been making some of the key public safety decisions about our city for the last however many years. This is someone who has been named in the Justice Department report and the internal MPD report as someone who has perpetuated this kind of allegedly toxic culture that was creating crime statistic manipulation. And in some of these texts, he does appear to be talking to his wife about reclassifying crimes as potentially less serious. So this both speaks to the greater question of if the public can trust the DC Police Department and unveils a lot of the really messy and hostile divisions within the department that's, you know, working to keep all of us safe, or should be.
I mean, just to put a finer point on it, you uncover him saying, you know, racial stuff about the new chief who's a white guy in your reporting. Wright and his wife and this other couple who are also, one of whom is also among those who've been removed from their jobs and targeted for firing as a result of the crime stats scandal. And they are like crapping all over each other. You know, it suggests this department that it's not, I mean, I think in the eyes of some of the Trump adjacent people who see this big conspiracy to manipulate crime stats, you know, here's this like wicked, evil conspiracy that was hatched at the highest levels. Your reporting suggests like it's like a clown show and that people at the highest levels hate each other and are scrapping with each other. They're not conspiring on anything.
Right. I'm actually glad you brought that up because it is really notable. There's kind of two married couples where both husband and wife were served termination papers over the crime stats investigation. So it's Andre and Natasha Wright, and it's Michael and Rachel Polium. And they all hold leadership positions in some form or another within the DC Police Department. And kind of the rhetoric online, people inside the police department don't believe this, but a lot of like the rhetoric online or even in some like more congressional circles is that these 13 people who were served termination papers had this wide-reaching conspiracy where they were all working together to mass declassify crime. That has never been officially alleged. And these text messages, as terrible as they are, they do seem to disprove that there was any sort of mass coordination simply because Andre and Natasha Wright seem to despise the Pulliams. They call Rachel a liar in text messages. They say that they send a picture of Michael Pulliam and say that he looks terrible, that he is, quote, fucked. Like they seem to have an extreme sense of hostility towards these people that, you know, were also allegedly engaging in crime stat manipulation. And also, it doesn't seem like, you know, among all these text messages, there's a lot of salacious stuff, there's a lot of offensive stuff, there's racially charged stuff, there's sexually explicit stuff, but there is not indication that he was directing anyone else or coordinating with anyone else to downgrade crime stats. So that kind of puts an interesting point on it. There's definitely dysfunction. There's definitely a lot of HR concerns, but there does not seem to be, at least based on these text messages, a coordinated conspiracy to mass disclassify crimes.
Wow, it almost seems like, I mean, if I were running an alleged conspiracy to reclassify crime, it would be better if we were all on the same team, all on the same page. Having little factions within folks allegedly trying to do that, I think does sort of speak to the dysfunction. You know, you can't even allegedly cook the books together with efficiency.
Right. I think that a lot of what's come out from the Justice Department report and this internal MPD report is that it doesn't really seem like anyone was explicitly saying you have to classify crime less severely. It seems like the culture got so toxic, got so miserable that people just wanted to save their own behinds and make them look better at their jobs so they wouldn't get publicly berated and publicly embarrassed. Because as allegedly Chief Smith and Wright and other leaders were doing to people when crime was up.
You know, what your reporting shows here, you know, it's different than the crime stats scandal because, so in the crime stats scandal, the defense, insofar as there is one, is the former chief had created such a toxic culture. People were so afraid of being in trouble and being yelled at that they were preemptively changing stats to keep themselves out of the line of fire, which is like bad, really bad, but in theory is a thing you could fix. What we've got in the texts you uncovered is a person with great authority in this department who is like casually misogynist in his texts, who, you know, there's this line, you don't even want to use it, like where he talks about ghetto and then a word that begins with P. And the police department is supposed to provide like equal protection and equal service, whether you live in a rich neighborhood or in a poor neighborhood that gets called a ghetto. And the police department is supposed to be the safe place you go to report a sexual assault, and it will bring justice and care to you. I'm curious, in your reporting, did you get a sense from other people like, yeah, you know, behind closed doors, everyone talks this way? Or did you get a sense saying like, this is appalling, people should be fired for this?
Yeah, the people that I spoke with, even just kind of off the record or on background to try to understand and contextualize some of these messages, they seemed appalled. They really did. They thought that this was totally beyond the pale. And I mean, some of them even spoke to that. They were like, well, we knew that Andre Wright in particular has been named in some lawsuits, but I feel like people are shocked by the vulgarity of what he was saying. And I mean, it is shocking because this is someone who has just ascended the ranks in recent years. Like, this isn't some random lieutenant or sergeant who, you know, has some power, but this has been a rising star and one of the most decorated and powerful people in the department over recent years. And so it raises a lot of questions about what behavior the DC Police Department is rewarding. And I think that just in conversations with people throughout the department, they were pretty spooked by the fact that this behavior had not only occurred, but appears to have been rewarded in recent years.
Before we change subjects, do you have a sense of like sort of what's next in this particular scandal? Whether the higher-ups think of this as actually like the public image crisis that I think it is, and what they could do at this stage to help restore their good name or create a good name?
I get the sense that interim Chief Jeffrey Carroll is taking this quite seriously. I mean, Andre Wright, Natasha Wright, along with 11 other officials, are all on administrative leave. The DC police process to fire someone is quite long and complicated, and it historically has been difficult to fire officials, even when they've kind of displayed concerning conduct. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out, but it seems that the DC Police Department has taken pretty prompt action they've shuttered the entire office that Andre Wright led. That office no longer exists. So even on administrative leave, he is no longer in this position of power. He's still a captain, but they've knocked him down even before officially firing him or anything like that. So I get the sense they're taking it quite seriously. However, I will say that they are not commenting publicly much on it, saying that it's a personnel issue. And I understand that in some ways, but it is also a public safety and public trust and home rule issue in some ways. So I think that some more transparency would be appreciated.
Hey, it's Mike. Don't wait for the DC summer heat to hit and crank up your AC bill. The pros at Window Nation can help you replace your old drafty windows with custom-built, energy-efficient ones at a price you'll love. Here's why you should trust Window Nation. It's got an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, a 96% customer satisfaction rating, and over 45,000 5-star reviews. Right now, Window Nation's Buy 4, Get 4 free sale is going on. That means you could replace every window in your home and get half of them for free. Windows are one of the best investments you can make in your home. Experts report that windows retain 80% of their value. But the sale ends soon, so schedule your fast, free consultation today at windownation.com. This is the subject of the year about the National Mall and the monumental core of Washington. We have all been in conversations on this podcast about the painting of the reflecting pool, what might happen to the public park at East Potomac Park, which has, right now a kind of dowdy golf course and some bike trails and stuff, and the massive arch that the president wants to build on the other side of the Potomac from the Lincoln Memorial. A few news nuggets, and I'd love to hear what you all think. According to the New York Times, the cost for painting the reflecting pool blue, which some people think will mean it no longer reflects, is north of $13 million now. Trump had said it would be less than $2 million. And the company that is doing it got a no-bid contract and doesn't appear to have any experience that is tied to federal stuff. The surveying work started Monday for the Arc to Trump, and they've struck a deal about Haynes Point, East Potomac Park, where this nonprofit gets to continue to run the other two DC golf courses, and East Potomac will be redeveloped into what's called a championship caliber golf course. And the conventional wisdom is, despite them having said this will be accessible to all, that there's no way regular people will be able to afford the kinds of costs you need if you're going to have a championship caliber golf course. And there is litigation in all of these matters. There's a new suit over the Lincoln Memorial from an old Park Service official who says actually having a gray reflecting pool was the design. It was supposed to perfectly mimic the architecture around it. But it continues unabated. If you look at pictures, it's like a highlighter of blue sort of slowly stretching across that pool.
I know I'm getting National Mall whiplash. I feel like every time that I open my phone or open social media, this is moving forward. Actually, no, there's been a lawsuit. It's been ordered to stop. Actually, there's an emergency clause and they're doing it anyway. They've started, I can't even keep up with all the ways that the National Mall may or may not look different in a year or two's time. But I found that New York Times reporting really interesting, especially the fact that it was over $6 million no bid contract given to a company from Virginia. And then I saw pictures of this kind of big patriotic looking truck down by where they were spraying the pool. And so I just did some internet and Facebook stalking, and it's Mid-America Industrial Coatings. It's a small company with a super bare bones, dated looking website from Oklahoma. And good for them. I looked at their Facebooks. They seem great. They seem like normal guys. The only time they really get in Facebook is to comment on the Atoka, Oklahoma, business community page and like try to enter a raffle to win a round of golf, like seem like super normal, just like Oklahoma guys. So I'm like, how in the world did they end up spray painting or working on the bluification of the reflecting pool? I'm so curious.
Yeah, something that has been deeply frustrating about this whole conversation is the way that Trump is so effectively able to set the agenda when it comes to the reality of what's going on in DC. People that I would describe lovingly as normies in my life, the idea that the reflecting pool has been full of garbage for the last 10 years and that you can't even go there because it's so filthy. I can't personally say that I spent too much time near the reflecting pool. I've never seen it full of garbage. I don't know what this idea is and why it is so pervasive and sticky with people who, frankly, don't spend a lot of time in DC.
I mean, I think that's the whole of Donald Trump's pre-political career as a developer, was doing these things. You engender some opposition. You sort of price litigation into the cost of doing business. You create facts on the ground. You know, there was that famous thing with the Bonwit Teller frescoes, a building you wanted to control in New York, and it had these artistically significant frescoes, and there had been a large preservation fight about them, and then the preservation fight ended when they just knocked them down, and then that was that. So, you know, I think his business side instincts are kicking in, and, you know, he's made a lot of money in that business, I think, but I don't know that they've created a lot of lasting beauty. You know?
Crack businessman, you know, you were quoted $1 million. It's coming in $7 million. Really, hats off. Crack business deal maker, real deal maker.
The art of the deal, Bridget.
I will say one thing that encourages me is Janae Dill from Axios reported about a new group that's throwing itself into the fight over East Potomac Park called Save East Po. And what they're saying is like they're trying to take away amenities from cyclists and picnickers and golfers. And that is like such a more effective line of criticism in kind of current American politics than the stuff that is usually deployed in these fights about the mall, which is sort of a really highbrow talk about like architectural intent of the original design and preservation, and did you go through the proper administrative procedures to have your thing approved and blah, blah, blah. That's stuff that, you know, I think a lot of people's eyes glaze over. But I think people can relate to like a bunch of old dudes in the middle class who are just retired, used to be able to afford to play golf here, and now they can't. That is a much more relatable critique. And I think insofar as anybody is listening to any of the critiques from people in D.C., it seems like a way more effective one.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think many people, even if they agree, I don't think many people get fired up and ready to march on behalf of procedure. So I think that that's right.
Even in Washington.
Even in Washington.
Hey, so Bridget, you are obsessed this week with a new DC reality show.
I am. I kind of think of myself as CityCast's reality TV correspondent. I think I'm the only person that watches a lot of reality TV on staff. Is that correct?
I watch TikTok clips of reality TV. So I'll catch your reference, but I'm not a true Bravo head or anything like that.
Oh, I live for Bravo. And I have said this. I know this sounds like fluff, but when you consider how many folks in our current government have roots in reality TV, Trump, Sean Duffy was on The Real World, Dr. Oz. I do feel that if you understand reality TV, you understand where our country is going politically. And right now, there are all these talks about a new reality show taking place in DC that is meant to sort of feature DC's young hustlers called The District.
In what sense are you using the word hustler? Because I can think of three.
I am using that word because that's how the creator of this show described it. He says, the Washingtonian reported that it's going to ignore Capitol Hill entirely, focus on the messy hookups, drama, and social climbing of influencers and self-proclaimed, quote, industry insiders.
Which industry?
You know, just general industry, you know.
I got a factory over here. It makes things.
That's such a good question because I think when you look at who they're talking about for the cast, which that's already a big messy thing, but I don't know that they're people that I would call industry leaders. They're notables, like one of them, Jimmy Morrell, is a former Vine star. Nneka, who we saw on one season of Real Housewives of Potomac on Bravo, her season on the show really centralized around a conversation around whether another cast member, whether or not that cast member's mom had put a literal curse on her. So she's also an attorney. So like, I guess that's an industry.
Right. I just question because when I think of like the popular industries in like DC, like whether it's politics or law or like we all know someone that like just says they're a defense contractor and you're like, what does that really mean? Like those are not industries that really encourage you to like go share your life on reality TV. So I'm fascinated to see what they mean by industry insider.
Well, I think there's always the publicity industry and, you know, that stretches from like really highly paid handlers for, incredibly powerful companies to a lot of party hopping, thirsty people. And I have a feeling that it's the latter group that's going to wind up wanting to have their life story on TV.
So I agree with you, both of you. I will say, as somebody who has watched a lot of reality TV and pretty much every piece of reality TV that takes place in the DMV, that has been a persistent issue, is that people who actually are industry insiders and are connected and really do live those kinds of lifestyles are not generally voluntarily signing up to be on a reality show. And so in DC, what you generally tend to get is people who are kind of hangers on. The creator of the show, this guy, Brant Rika, if that name sounds familiar, it's because he did do a season as a love interest on Bravo's Real Housewives of Potomac and their D-list spinoff show, Love Hotel. But then, interestingly enough, he told the Washingtonian that, I have no interest in reality TV. I just fell into the genre, which, come on,
Yeah, this is no, what, take 3?
Yeah, you don't gotta lie to kick it, Brant.
That line about the kinds of jobs that represent real power in Washington, they tend to reward a kind of personal discretion, and you want to look classy, and it is going to militate against anybody with real power or influence wanting to take part in anything like reality TV. Has that changed in the Trump era? Because I remember I remember once we did a profile of a plastic surgeon who was saying even the I hope I don't get in Andre Wright trouble right now, but even people were asking for a much more restrained kind of reshaping of their bodies because it's Washington. It wasn't the Hollywood thing. But, in the Trump era, which has so clearly rewarded people for going for it to get attention, going for it to do things that are maybe cringy in public, but you do them and now you're the head of the FBI. So I wonder if that changes the incentive structure around reality shows.
I think you're absolutely right. Again, as somebody who would describe herself as a scholar of the genre, I think we're absolutely seeing that. And think about all the different people in Trump's orbit who got their start, not just in television, but a certain kind of television, right? Like Jeanine Pirro, her show on Fox was her almost sort of kind of playing a trumped up character of herself. Omarosa was in his first administration, right? Got her start on The Apprentice. I do think there's something where there was a time where being a reality TV show villain or an iconic person on a reality TV show was seen to be gauche. But I think that is how you power play in this administration.
Yeah, that's smart. And I'm interested. I'm here for this. I do not want to be burned again like Love is Blind, which they said was in DC, and literally almost none of it happened in DC. I feel like when I was watching it was all Arlington and if it's called The District, it better be filmed in The District.
So where does it stand, Bridget?
So unclear if this will see the light of day. The show is still in negotiations for development deals, so even if it is greenlit, it might be a while until we see it. But I actually have a question for you two. If you were casting a reality TV show in The District, what would it be about?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like this is going to be an obvious answer, and it's not but the hill turns, not all of Capitol Hill, specifically the hill turns, like with Summer House, where it's like just over the summer and it's this kind of like group that comes in and out. And I feel like how the churn of the intern industry and the age leads to like messiness in a way that maybe people who are actually trying to like establish themselves here wouldn't be freely messy.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's sort of like there's a kind of children's crusade aspect of it. Like, what if all the grown-ups went away and the kids were in charge? I would imagine, like, group houses are this sort of essential form of Washington living. It's a rare place where like young, like not bohemians, but like professionals, people who have jobs that they put on a tie for, will live in a house with like 5 people. And there's politics in these houses, and there's who's in and who's out. I would want to combine that with the gentrification story, which is also the other essence of Washington right now. So you get a group house full of Washington's drivers gentrifying some neighborhood, and watch the various dynamics play out.
I would watch both of these shows. If I were putting together a reality show that took place in DC, it would be spotlighting DC's kink community, because there's lots of type A types, and also you like might have somebody who manages grants at like NIH on Monday through Friday, but then see them doing like a rope demo at a club on Saturday. I think like it's unique to DC. I think that would be a very interesting, potentially messy, very juicy, drama-filled show.
I think we have 3 winning ideas here.
Andy Cohen, call us.
Yes.
Today, members get a bonus 4th segment. It's all about the odd Trump administration campaign against the combined federal campaign. That's the world's biggest workplace charity. If you don't want to miss this 4th segment and you always want to get the full show, head to membership.citycast.fm. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. You get ad-free listening, members-only events, and a special events newsletter every week. Again, membership.citycast.fm. And that is all for today here on CityCast DC. You can get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to the CityCast DC newsletter. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not try out for that reality show and then talk about CityCast constantly? It will probably get you booted from the show, but it'll help us spread the word. See you back here tomorrow for more news from around the city. Bye.